Hey guys, Alex here with Together on Treads. Today we're going to be installing the ADD Stealth Fighter bumper on my 2021 Chevy Trail Boss. Let's get started. We're going to start by removing the hood latch. We're going to do that by removing these two T15 torque bolts. And this just slides right off. So next we're going to remove these 10 clips right here holding on the radiator cover. I'm sure there's a better tool for this, but this is what I got. Should be able to just lift this right off. Next, we're going to take off these 4 bolts and remove the grill. For this, I'm going to use a 10 millimeter. For the most part, you can loosen these up and take them out by hand. So there's 3 clips on this side, 3 clips on the other side, and then you got 3 clips in the middle. So what I'm going to do is very carefully put this behind here and pry back a little bit in order to pop this section off. And if you go slowly, you can feel it working its way out. There it goes. Now that we have both of these sections popped out, we're going to go to this middle part and we're going to start pulling back from here. Woo, there we go. And there we go. Just as simple as that. All right, once you finally get the grill off, it'll look something like this. All right, after you get the grill off, what we want to do is come under here to the wheel well, and we want to remove these 2 T15 torque screws. All right. So next step is to remove these 10 millimeter bolts from both sides of the bottom of the bumper. You gotta take this off. What you would need to do normally is take off all 4 of those, remove the factory skid plate, and then put these 2 bolts back in. But in my case, I'm just gonna remove this. Oh man, I got the diesel heater blowing right at me, and that feels amazing. Now for the other side. Got both bolts out, so now let's just pull the rest of this out of here. So once you have your factory skid plate off, you're gonna look up into the bumper and you'll see these 2 bolts here, and then there's 2 bolts on the other side over here. Both of those need to come out in order for the front tow hooks to come off. All right, so as you can see, I did get the bolt off. The problem is I can't get it past this. What I'm gonna have to do is loosen up this bolt on top, and then I'll be able to get it past here. Got it. What we're gonna do is just pull hard, and it should pull right out. Just like that. So now that we got the bolts out of this side as well, we're gonna do the same thing, just give it a nice hard tug. All right, now that we've removed the tow hooks from both sides, now we're going to focus on these 3 bolts holding on this bracket on both sides of the bumper. So we'll go ahead and take those off next. All right, so if we look up into the front fender liner on the passenger side, we'll see this cable here, and that is the main harness for the bumper. So we're gonna go ahead and remove that. All right, on either side of the radiator, there's this little rubber piece that if you pull up, you can see one 18mm bolt in there and then one 13mm. So we're gonna need to take both of those out on both sides of the truck. Now let's do the other side. All right, so next we're gonna remove these 2 18mm bolts that are about, say about 6 inches down from where this rubber liner is. Then uno más. That one's gonna be stubborn. I'm gonna loosen this up by going underneath and loosening it manually, and then I can finish it. All right, and if we've done everything right, this bumper should come right off. There we go. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove these 15mm bolts from the horns here on the front. And then once we get those off, we're gonna take this bracket off. There we go. All right, if we look at the fender liner supports underneath, we'll see 4 10mm bolts. We're gonna go ahead and take those off. All right, this back 10mm is really tough to get to because of this here. So I'm gonna have to get creative. You can get it kind of from a weird angle here. Now let's go do the same thing on the other side. This time we'll start with the tricky one. All right, now we're going to remove this 10mm bolt for our skid plate mount on both sides of the truck. Now we're going to install the adapter plate for the winch. So for this, we're going to be using the 10mm bolts they supplied, as well as this little washer for each. Before we install the winch, I want to make sure that we've wired it correctly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and connect the winch to the battery, test that it's working, and then install it. We're going to take this nut off. We're going to add in this relay that's come with the winch, and then we're going to power it up real quick. So that was a 2-person operation. We installed the winch up into the winch mount here. It's important to have 2 people for this. You need 1 person holding it up in place and another person putting the bolts in. The winch itself is very heavy, so just keep that in mind if you're going to be installing this by yourself. I got the rigid light bar. With that, they send you the universal mounting kit. So we'll go ahead and add that on. We'll start by adding these 2 bolts. Then we're going to come in with this piece here and lock them in place. After that, we'll take our rubber washer and slide that in. I'm gonna mount this going outwards. So it goes through that hole, and that'll allow us to tilt. So we're gonna follow that up by adding a washer and a locking nut. There we go. Yeah, so once you get these on, loosen them up a little bit and you can slide this bolt in. Once you slide this bolt in, you can move this entire thing into the mount. All right guys, now we're gonna install the washer and the nut. Make sure you have everything aligned before you tighten everything down. All right, I didn't really film this part. The options that you can get for these lights are gonna be totally different depending on what you go with in the kit. But general good rule of thumb, don't mount the inner light until you've installed the sensors below if you plan on installing them. Mount these lights, run your wires from left to right so you can still go up to the battery. And also that's where your main harness is gonna run if you choose to install the sensors. All right, so next step will be installing the bumper. That's actually right there, perfect. All right guys, once your bumper is ready to be installed, you're gonna have 2 people lift on both sides to get it up into position. And you're gonna try to line it up with these 2 bolts here. Underneath these are the clips that you installed directly on the bumper. And so you're gonna be sliding these bolts into those clips. While you have 2 people lifting the bumper up into position, what you can do is just lightly hand tighten these 2 bolts into place, and same on the other side, and this bumper will hold its position. After that, then you can get some tools up here to actually tighten them. The toughest part is this bolt here. You won't really be able to see it, but you can reach your hand up there and feel for it. Once you have that installed, the right-hand side is a little bit tougher to get to. I'll show you that next. On the passenger side, you'll see your winch here. You'll have some cables in your way, but if you look past the winch, right back there, that is your final remaining bolt. I found that it's best to reach up there and hand tighten the screw in. And then what you can do is go back to the top where we install the grill, and you can reach down and tighten it from there. Wow, when you install it the right way, it's really easy actually.
Hush.
All right.
Then how much go?
Legend, man, legend. All right guys, once you've finally gotten your bumper installed, what we're gonna do next is trim your fender liner. To trim the fender liner, what we're gonna do is cut a notch at the top here, about the same length as your existing fender. And then once we have that notch cut, we're gonna take it from there with an X-Acto knife and run it the length of it. That'll give us a nice clean look under the bumper. Just like that. All right guys, if you don't install the parking sensors, what you're gonna do is install these little rubber pieces into these holes. You just kind of work them around into the hole. And then once you got those in, you'll put this little stopper in it and it'll look something like this. Now that we have the sensor holes plugged, it's finally time to install the grill. So we're just gonna pop these back into the clips that they came out of. So next I'm gonna wire in the winch. In the instructions, it says just to wire this directly to your battery. I don't have the room for that, so I'm gonna use an extension to get it out of the way a little bit, and then I'll mount it somewhere else in here. I'm also gonna wire up the lights. To do that, I have an aux beam switcher box. If you don't wanna wire all the lights from your new bumper all the way into the cab, I'd highly recommend you get one of these aux beam switcher boxes. They're great. It allows you to wire up to 8 lights underneath the hood, and then you have 1 wire that goes into the cab to a nice switcher panel. So 2 more steps. 1, we need to put in the bolts for the grill, and then we'll need to put back on the radiator cover, and then we'll be done. All right, last step is to install the radiator cover. slide back on the hood latch.